All right, we are live and we're going to give it just a second so that I can ensure that we are streaming beautifully, perfectly, magnificently on this wintry Austin, not wintry, but it's rainy-y.
Rainy-ish.
Rainy-ish for sure.
And I'm going to share this on my Facebook community.
As per usual. So if anyone jumps on or as you jump on, let us know that you're watching, that you're listening, that you're here with us. Beautiful. Party. All right. So for anyone that might be listening for the first time to this series, we've been going live every single day, pretty much since this quarantine started, as part of our podcast, Mentor in the Mirror, and streaming it to Facebook and bringing on guests, because actually up until the beginning of the quarantine, pre-pandemic, we weren't doing video.
That's so pre-pandemic.
That was so pre-pandemic.
So pre-pandemic.
Yeah, totes pre-pandemic. Totes PP, bah.
TPE.
When there was no TP in the PP, you know?
What? Wait, what? Hold on.
Yeah, this is how life is happening. My camera's a little.
What?
I know. I'm like, you guys are. Where are you going?
There we go. Woo! Yeah, we're very sneaky, very sneaky. So thank you everyone for tuning in. My name is Cole.
My name is Ty. We are Ty Cole, and this is Mentor in the Mirror podcast.
We are all about giving you some tools to step in front of the mirror, ask yourself the questions, and our guest today is the perfect guest for this. So we met Dr. Melissa a few weeks ago. I guess it was like 3 weeks ago now, almost a month ago, whatever it was. Yeah, almost a month ago.
Wow.
And I can't believe it's been a month already.
That's crazy.
Well, we met each other before, but I mean, spent time together, really got to know each other at the Apeiron Zoh Human Optimization Summit. And we got to join her and other amazing speakers on stage like Jamie Wheel, Aubrey Marcus, Dr. Mario Martinez, Mark England. I mean, the list was amazing besides Micra and, oh my gosh, what just happened to me?
Dr. Dan.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Dan,
Wow.
Well, they're
No
like
one
the two of you. You know, they're a pair. So when you say one, you say the other. I mean,
Yeah, but that's just weird. Like that's just bizarre.
Yeah, what's his name? That guy.
That guy, you know, that other guy.
Bald guy.
The bald guy that's with the hot chick.
Who's doing all the wild stuff
That
to help
one.
humanity. Oh, you mean me? Oh, wait, no.
Exactly.
That other guy.
The other
The
bald
balder
guy.
A little lighter.
Little lighter skin
A
tone.
little lighter, but you know, bald and smart.
Both in medicine.
Yeah, something
True.
like that. Yeah.
Fair. Well,
So,
here we are.
Welcome to Mentor in the Mirror, Dr.
so glad to be here, you guys. This is fantastic. What an honor and a joy. Thank you.
Thank you, and yeah, it's so wonderful. We've been waiting for this to get you to drop some knowledge on here because we're absolutely interested in your perspective on what's going on in the world right now, what people are dealing with, and you know, what your vantage point is on humanity moving forward.
Yeah. That's what we're going to unpack tonight. You know, it's interesting because we are in similar tribes and spaces. And so we're really used to seeing a lot of people around us that are already of a forward-thinking mindset, very kind of future focused, very proactive, right? And really into kind of how do I continue to optimize and thrive? And so the norm for us is, hey, all is well. Yet also being a mom, being on a school board, right? Being in a town, having family, having friends that are not living that every day, getting to see through their lens is what's really sobering. And I have to share compassion and appreciation, just like you guys have been, to see that, yes, we all have different lenses through which we're viewing this, our experience of reality right now. And as you guys have done such a brilliant job of, I mean, it truly ranges from grief and despair and anger and into overwhelm, literal overwhelm over technology. And all of a sudden, the kids, the parents, the homeschooling, the co-working under one roof, multiple schedules, and not having kind of those normal entry and exit pathways into our days. You know, it's really disrupting. It's disrupting people to their core. Yeah. And of course, I think it's a great thing. I know you guys do too. I see the beautiful opportunity within all of it. And I still want to be sensitive to the reality that we're all in different spaces and places. And yet we all equally have the same opportunity to be able to go within so that we can come out in a much more resilient and thriving state.
Yeah,
Yep.
definitely. I agree, and we're on board. And I'd love to ask you, right, before we even really get down into diving deep, what is your definition of health? Because you're into wellness and holistic health. What is your definition of health?
I feel that health is a true alignment of brain, body, and being. It's a total oneness of coming into a state of resonance, of thriving. And to me, that feels like a fullness, like a wholeness. It's not something that's forced or contrived. It's just this really, it's almost like living in the flow state, right? Where it's
Yeah,
just this hum. To
yeah.
me, that is health.
Yeah, that resonates deeply, with where we roll. So I just wanted to see if we were on the same page before we start getting into the good
Into
stuff.
the good stuff.
The good stuff.
And
Pulling out
yeah, it was
my
just like a little bit off the fuzzy white
some
pillow.
fuzzy.
Your favorite pillow.
No,
I
it's
hate
the
that.
He
cutest.
hates that
I
pillow.
just like, I love your love. I love your partnership. I love like your presence. Oh my gosh. So good.
Love
So
it.
good. Ooh.
Yeah.
So for you, Melissa, language is such an important thing. And I think that people intellectually understand that, but can we break down a little bit how language impacts behavior specifically?
Yeah. And I think as we go into that, Cole, what becomes important is if we were to contextualize kind of how we're responding and behaving right now and the role that our language is playing into that. Language immediately, language centers in the brain. When we think about what's happening right now, fundamentally, many people are triggering their amygdala, that response, that part of the brain that's already constantly surveying, right, for potential threat because it wants to keep us alive. And, that's pretty important. And so what language does is it's any given moment, so it can impact it impacts our physiology, it impacts our genetic expression, it impacts our immune function. And so often we have zero awareness, very little awareness about what we are saying to ourselves, over ourselves, within the aspects of our lives. And, as we were kind of preparing and talking about different ways that we could really share a message today, as I was going into it, I'm like, well, what are we all dealing with? We're all dealing with fear to a greater or lesser extent, whether we're feeling it ourselves, experiencing it ourselves, and or seeing it in people that we love and care about in the communities around us. So it is palpable in various degrees right now, right? And so what's happening is that, of course, that puts us into, like you guys have said, that fight or flight kind of response if we're triggering this fear. And I am bringing this to language because we need to have a little bit of definition as we talk about language to contextualize it. So when we think through the lens of language and we think through the lens of fear and what is it doing to our system, we can then move into the fact of fear elicits fight or flight, stress, distress. Well, there's also eustress. Eustress is good stress. And I think right now, stress is getting a super bad rap, and language does play into this. It's all in how are we framing? What are the words that we're using to describe our experience, our beliefs, and our response to what's playing out? And so what I hope everybody can appreciate is that without stress, we don't evolve, right?
Nope.
So stress allows us to be highly responsive and adaptive. It allows us to become resilient. And it actually is the key ingredient in enabling each and every one of us to fully thrive.
Right.
But I know you guys know this. I know Todd knows all about this. But what happens when we think about stress that allows us to thrive, that's not chronic stress. It's eustress. It's the good stress. It's these short intensity, short durations, kind of high intensities. These bursts into the systems, right? And what happens is that when that continues and it starts to bleed out, if you will, and go on chronically, good stress can turn to bad stress. All of a sudden, what was good for the system now can overwhelm and deplete the system. And when that occurs, what begins to happen is we have to say, well, We have to rest and reset. That's what allows for eustress to thrive. And so now when we get into language, we say, well, what is language doing to our stress? What is language doing to how we're perceiving and responding? Are we continuing to tell the story that is stressing us out, literally and figuratively, right? That's lowering our immune response, that's depressing our antiviral antibodies within our immune system? Or are we using our language to actually upregulate our genetic expression and enhance our health and our well-being? So again, if we were to put it really simply, like here we go, real simply stated in research, we can see that there are very specific words that positively impact the physiology and words that negatively impact the physiology, if we keep it super, super simple, right?
Right.
And that's what I want us to talk about and understand in greater depth today. Does that all make sense?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. So do we want to go into some of the words and some of that fun stuff? Or
Sounds good to me. Let's
Let's go.
if you guys know, like you just got to give me the time out, because I love to educate. I love to talk. I love to chat together. So if at any time you're like, take a break.
We're like, you haven't had an inhale in 9 minutes. I don't even know how that happened.
That.
Go for it, sister. Go for it. We're ready for it.
We're ready.
We are ready to be educated.
Educated.
Let's go.
Teach me.
I love it.
Yes, please.
Well, so when we are looking at our words, I mean, let's think right now, like, what are some of the words? I'd ask the two of you, what are some words that you, when you just hear them or you say them, you kind of have an awareness of, that just feels good in my body.
Sexy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome. Fantastic.
Fun.
Brilliant. Wonderful.
Yes. Right? All those high vibe. Curious, love, peace, compassion, kindness, curiosity. Adventure. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So while we have scientific studies to back this up, like, we don't have to get really technical. Right now, we can just check in and say, well, what words do I say that already naturally feel good in my body? Like, I just kind of feel open. I feel flexible, right? So if we think about resilient as a word, what does that mean? That means flexible, right? That means malleable. So what do you already hear yourself or notice yourself potentially saying that allows you to feel good, flexible, malleable? And what are some of the words that when you hear them or maybe say them, create some tension or some constriction in your body and your mind?
Can't, don't, won't.
Yep.
Stupid,
Mm-hmm.
ugly,
Idiot,
ridiculous,
Yeah.
Unworthy, limited,
frustrated,
or
frustrating.
stuck, worthless.
Really, any insults, anything that's like degrading.
And what the research shows is that when you also put kind of a modifier in front of it, like, I'm incredibly frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe how stupid that person is. It actually amplifies the negative effect to our immune system, our physiology, and it impacts in a negative way, down regulates more than 50 genes that are responsible for enhanced immune function.
Yeah.
So there's the word, and then there can also be an amplification of the word. So the word in and of itself is already affecting our physiology.
Mm-hmm.
And
we're giving it a springboard.
100%, right? And so one of the first things that we can all just kind of gain from this today is simply being an observer of self without judgment or anything. Just, I like to say, let's become a curious observer. And if you were to get interested in you, what would you notice, right? Just first and foremost, like, let's just get curious. What would we notice? Because oftentimes, and this kind of goes back to what we were saying in the beginning, we're not all consciously walking around wanting to feel bad, wanting to say negative things, wanting to be pissed off, right? We don't want that. Of course, we all want to be happy and feel good and feel resilient and just be like, yes, the greatest things are going to come out of this. And we can mentally say that we want it. Yet, why is it that at times we can all, in our own way, triggered in our own states, find ourselves in a default pattern, meaning we may know that we want to feel good. We may know that I can listen to this and go, yeah, I should be seeing this as an opportunity. Yet all I can do is feel really frustrated and angry. I can't pay my rent right now, and I am feeling completely overwhelmed, right? Very, very normal, very justified. It's all okay. Yet we get to come to a place where we go, okay, some of these things were there way before we ever had any conscious choice over them. And this is where we get into a little of that conversation around unconscious, right? Unconscious programming, unconscious belief patterns. And I'm sure your audience is aware of this, but just to frame it, we have 4 predominantly active brainwaves, really a 5th, but we've got our beta, our alpha, our theta, and our delta. Beta is fast. Alpha we know as flow state. Theta slows down into that deeper learning. And of course, delta is that really deep, restorative, very dreamlike state. And when we are born, from the time we're born until really around 6, we are primarily in delta and theta. And we start to move more into alpha between 6 and 10, 6 and 12. The research is a little varied. We don't come fully online into beta, kind of that high, busy brain, until we're in those tween years. And so what does this really mean? When we're in those lower brainwave states, everything is coming in, it's downloading straight in. And there isn't a filter to say, well, are they being serious or not? Does that really mean that? There's no way for a little kid, a little developing brain, to be able to interpret if something is literal or if it's figurative. It's all literal. It all comes in. And there it is, right? In this very dreamlike state, deeply rooted and embedded. So when we come into times like this, where we're disrupted, we are triggered, right, wrong, or indifferent, things are out of hand. Now all of a sudden, we find ourselves in our default state. Even if we consciously want to show up differently and respond differently, unconsciously, we're just, we're down, we're stuck in our own muck. And so when this happens, again, what's really beautiful about this is, just like I said with our words, we can come back to step 1, which is becoming just curious and observer of self, to simply just say, okay, whose words am I saying? Whose story am I telling? Right? And really, whose belief is this? Like, is this serving me now?
Yeah. We ask all the time, who told you that?
Yep.
It's a big question we ask all of our clients. And just, hey, listen, who told you that? Especially with the negative stuff, I'm stupid, I'm dumb, or I'm brilliant, I'm smart, whatever it is. Who told you that? It's such an important question to ask yourself. And, we're about mentoring the mirror. So get in front of that mirror and asking yourself, who told me that? So important. So thank you for continuing.
And Ty, I love that you said that, because it is important to say it, and it's important to say it out loud. So when we come back to language and what happens when the resonance to actually hear, so there's so many different factors, and it does come down. So as an epigenetic coach and running Apeiron Academy for epigenetic coaching, I love epigenetics. I love genetics. And while I'm not a geneticist, I'd say I'm more of an epigeneticist, meaning it's really the understanding of how our environment, how we're living and eating and breathing and relating and thinking and being, is informing our genetic code. And all our genetic code is our blueprint of potential, right? So we used to think it was absolute. It's just a blueprint of potential. So that means that we each get to be the co-creator of eliciting our potential to its fullest, right? And so to verbally speak actually will positively impact your genetic expression. The body is listening. The body is actively listening right now. And so what's also beautiful about asking that question, being willing to ask ourselves questions and to ask them out loud, and I love it, get in front of that mirror, is that when you ask the question, what is the brain going to naturally do? Going to look for the answer.
You can't unask the question.
And that's one of the things we do with people all the time. You don't have to answer me because you've already answered it for yourself. You've already, if I ask you, do you think you're crazy? You don't have to answer me. You'll answer it yourself. Do you like this? You know what? You don't have to answer it. I don't ask questions if I really want the answer, I'll be like, hey, I'd really like that answer. Otherwise, It's for people to just listen. This
Yeah.
is rhetoric, man. Rhetoric. I think rhetoric is something that's very underrated in our wellness industry, is being able to just ask people the questions that they can ask. They'll answer it for themselves. Most of the time, we find that people do not ask these foundational questions. It's just assumed that people know these things and that they ask themselves this. We have a whole program called The Naked Truth, which is about asking yourself out loud, right? Standing in front of the mirror so you can actually hear it, see it vibrationally, and feel what your body is doing as you ask yourself these questions out loud, and then what your body feels as you say the answer out loud. Because we have a belief, or I know I have a belief, that the mind and the body are, it's like, your arm is still part of your body, but it's not your leg, right? Your mind is part of your human organism, but it's not your body. And I believe that we can think things, we can have imaginations that don't reside in the brain. And when we pull it into the brain, the body responds differently. And when we speak out loud, I think this is one of the reasons why things change, is because when we speak these things out loud, there's a vibrational quality that the body cannot deny.
That's right.
And when you bring it into the body, that changes everything. And it causes you to really face your truth, and how your genes express based on that truth and what you really feel deeply connected to, your body will resonate. Okay, your body will feel awesome. If you speak something that feels awesome and connected, your body will resonate in a wonderful way. It'll generate the hormones. Your genes will tell your body to express a certain way so that you can turn on what generates the hormones that feel awesome, or the hormones that make you feel like shit. And that is where the magic is, I believe, is being able to really speak that word out loud, speak this stuff out loud, so you can tune in and see what this wonderful body is able to tell you without using the mental, the complex mental weave of trying to figure stuff out. The body knows it's in the now all the time.
And let's think about that. So the body it's literally an antenna, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it is what happens is the body is kind of that voice of source, if you will, however we want to refer to that, kind of that inner knowingness, because the conscious brain and the unconscious brain communicate at a different rate and speed.
Mm-hmm.
The unconscious communicates a half a second faster than the conscious brain. And what reads kind of that language, if you will, is the body. Meaning, stand in front of the mirror, ask yourself the question, and notice what you notice. Because before the brain even becomes conscious of the answer, the body already has it.
Right.
And that's what you guys are teaching all the time. And so the fascinating thing is, yes, the body is picking up, and it is giving you the clues. And so back to what I was saying a few moments ago, is that if all of a sudden we were 4 years old and our cultural editors gave us some information that we downloaded, that now as an adult doesn't really serve us anymore. And yet we don't know it. We get triggered. We keep defaulting to, I want to think positive, but all I'm feeling is negative, right? Like, I want to do this, yet I'm still feeling this way. And so one of the quickest ways is to be able to get out of the brain and shift into the body. And simply, again, it all begins with this awareness, this willingness to be curious. And we definitely have time right now. Like, the greatest gift of this whole disruptive time is we're not in our cars and sitting in traffic and in our normal habitual kind of unconscious response to life and just going. So yes, we're sitting, we're stewing, we're bumping into things, we're feeling a little discomfort. And that is like, think about that as eustress, the good stress that's giving you this really intense short duration of a different, out of your familiar zone, right? We're out of our familiar zone. So we're primed for growth. We're primed to become resilient and adaptive. And even if it feels uncomfortable, so what? That's okay. Let's just be with it, be with ourselves, and be in the body, because it will quickly give you the answers that you're not getting up here. And you don't want to stay up here, right? This isn't going to help us, because the more we ruminate, the more we actually are keeping that distress signal going. That means we're in that chronic inflammatory response, that sympathetic overdrive, right? We are in fight or flight versus rest, reset, digest, the place that we need to be in, the parasympathetic state, so that we can recover and that we can adapt and become more resilient. So I love the work that you guys are doing and reminding people to cue back in to their
Yeah.
physical self.
Yeah, the body is I mean, you are, as far as I'm concerned, you are nobody without your body. And
Yes.
you know, we have so many people that are going off into these spiritual realms, which is awesome.
Yep.
But you still got to come
5D,
back here.
7D,
5D, 9D, you know,
Palladian moon on the south shore of New Jersey.
you know, people are going into trans-dimensional warps and all this other stuff. And this body, we still, in order to have this experience of us, this body needs to be fortified. It needs to be resilient. It needs to be able to adapt. And when we are thwarted by our environment, internally or externally, it makes it very difficult for the body to lean into anything, because it's in that sympathetic, it's in that, you know, protect mode, it's in that space, and we can't actually observe and really participate in everything that's going on. So I'm in love with you, do, sister. I'm in love with what you do.
We're speaking the same language. And I got to tell you, I've thought about you a lot with the social distancing, right? And the inability to get out there. And so you all know that one of the things that Todd is most sought out for, amongst all of his brilliance, are his hugs. And I was thinking, like, let's talk about that for a minute. I want to interview you on the effect, you know, like what if anything are you noticing? Are you missing out on that as well? Because you give them so fully. And of course, there's just such a beautiful boost to the immune health when you give all that good hug love.
Why do you think I'm so healthy?
You know,
Everyone thinks it's diet and movement. It's not.
I'm
guys.
super
It's
grateful
hugs.
because, you know, we'll be in here working and stuff, and I'll come and I'll start dancing or banging something in front of Cole, and she'll be like, "Baby, do you need a hug?" And I'll be like, "Yeah." So it's like she really hooks me up, and we have these two amazing Chihuahuas here that are very
Extra
snuggly
cuddly.
and cuddly. But you know, one thing that I have been working on, that I've been diving into for a while, is being able to love on myself. And, you know, the way I keep my body, I've been feeling very connected to it. So I'll stand in front of the mirror and I will hug myself and I will see what I feel like, and I will talk to myself, and it's awesome. And, you know, I've been able to celebrate other people's hugs and my ability to hug other people. I haven't been hugging myself. And so it's been really awesome. When Cole's asleep, I'll get up and I'll just stand in front of the mirror and I'll hug myself.
He high fives himself. He's his BFF.
And you know, I'm sure that the data is out there to show the positive effects, because I'm thinking, man, the moment you're doing that in the mirror, then literally the mirror neurons in your brain, right, are watching it as if it's outside of itself. And just by seeing another person hug another person, that is making a positive impact to our immune response. Right. So I love that. That's a really great way to approach this time when, you know, with the self-isolation and we're not able to, that's great.
Yeah, it's also been an experiment of sensuality for me. Just touching myself in general. As a man, I was always told, you know, don't touch yourself in a way that's soft or gentle or whatever. I've been feeling the contours of my body, just really exploring everything about me, and it's been lighting me up. I'm just like, wow, I've never felt that before from myself, you know, rubbing my feet or rubbing behind my back, or just, you know, rubbing, just feeling the texture of my hair as it grows out after I cut it, you know, feeling my beard as it grows in, you know, just putting my hand in my mouth and touching it inside, and really giving a lot of nurturing to my body in places where I haven't really given a lot of attention, which has been awesome, which is also something that I've been bringing to my clients. Hey, listen, you know, you're alone. It's time to start to really get to know yourself and really start to feel into your body. And people have been finding bumps and, you know, I didn't know this was here, and, you know, this kind of feels weird, and let's take a look at this. And it's been an exploration. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. I've been loving on me, girl.
Good. I love it. It's an important message, right? Because again, it is kind of the gift of this time. And when we talk about going inward, I do really appreciate that, you know, the importance that you guys are sharing. And I'm right there with you about really embody yourself, right? Because I'm all about embody and express your authentic gifts, your authentic power. And so, but it does begin with let's reconnect and align with what is within. And you're right. I mean, there's always been messages, and that goes back to that unconscious, those culture editors, and who are telling us those stories. Yet many of us collectively have been told the stories of don't touch yourself, Don't do that. Don't like,
That's
ooh,
nasty. That's
that's
gross.
ew, that's nasty. Yeah, right.
Well, I mean,
Exactly.
listen, if you want to take it a step deeper, I mean, all of that is rooted in the shame device, which destroys the human physiology.
Yeah.
And the work, girl, wait, we got to get offline and really talk about this work that I've been doing on shame. It's awesome.
That's the thing. That's what
And
he's been
that,
spending
oh,
so much
girl,
of his
it's
time and energy
awesome.
on. Like, this has been the most productive content writing and breaking down of
we are moving
ideas.
into a space of getting entrepreneurs to see how the shame device, and then just not just entrepreneurs, but all people, but the shame device gets embedded into your business and it disrupts everything. And it leads from shame. You go to dishonesty, which is the thwarting of your full expression
And
of yourself, of your
inauthenticity.
truth, your inauthenticity. How that blocks your genetic expression. When you move from shame into dishonesty, from dishonesty into loneliness, which is isolation, which is the detriment of human existence.
Yeah.
And when you move from loneliness, it moves into distress, into untoward stress, which is distress, disease, and dysfunction. Right. And when you move from all of those things, the next point of that is the physical degradation, because the body is holding the expression or the thwarting of the expression of the self, and it's presenting all these other expressions that aren't true to the self. So it causes the breakdown of the body. And man, girl, I've been into
He's
this.
been going
This
hardcore
thing about
into the
shame
sequence.
is crazy.
Yeah.
And this is the detriment of human existence. And we are I'm here unraveling this and kind of, getting into the intricacies of it. And this is the space that we've been working with people for a while. And I'm so excited to be bringing it. And
Now getting the languaging really solid. He came the other day. He's like, maybe I'm going too deep in this and I need to simplify. Like, no, you keep writing. I will go back for the simplification. Just keep going, because he's in this rabbit hole of deconstructing shame, because, we really believe that in this new wave of human evolution, this new paradigm opportunity for those that are really looking to evolve, it's going to require dismantling shame. You can do all the mindset work in the world, all the positive affirmations. If you do not bring awareness to the depth of how shame is built into our languaging, and you can see it on Facebook. If someone says, oh, I'm so disgusted by the people that are going out to the park when they should be isolating.
If you go outside,
shame.
You're stupid.
Yep. It's used for power. It's used to if control. Someone's looking to make a big impact on this planet with their health, with their business, it is paramount to deconstruct shame so that you aren't functioning from a place of deficit and you aren't functioning from a place of reactivity or protection or contraction. Like to be free, which is the objective of most entrepreneurs, wellness professionals that we end up working with, is they want to be free, financially, emotionally, spiritually, in every way they can. They want to expand and optimize, and they are not even attuned to the layers of how shame shows up in tone, in energetic presence, and in the words.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. And in body language. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. And this is, and it's all of it. This is so paramount in what's going to continue to come after this. I love that you guys are having this time, because just think about it, as entrepreneurs, especially, we feel called, right? I've got this vision, I've got this idea, I've got this drive and this mission. I just want to go out and do big, great things in the world. And yet it starts off very kind of a solopreneur. It's very individualized. And we are continuously, I'm going to say we, because we're all in this same space. So just we as a collective, the trend is that we are our own measuring stick. So we just look at ourselves and then we compare against kind of everything else out there. And we're kind of like, well, they're doing it that way and they're doing it that way and they're doing it that way. And I got to at least do it that way. And what happens is it actually is a very isolating, right? So if we think about like being an entrepreneur can feel very isolating, because we want so wholeheartedly to be in tribes and collectives and to bring people together around just, foundational principles and missions and innovation. And yet we get in our own way. We get in our own way by going, I want to be connected, but that doesn't feel safe because this has to be my idea. I have to prove this. I have to vet this. I have to do this thing. I have to have this notoriety. I have to be this influence. That's kind of the culture that's out there. Even though we're not consciously thinking that, we fight against ourselves. And so what you're talking about, Ta, is sounds absolutely like that's a huge part of it, right? Because we are isolating ourselves thinking when I, then I. When I do this, then it'll be okay to do that, right?
Yep.
If I get invited over there, then I'll do that over here. And so it's really about, let's begin within and let's use this time now. And yes, like, it's okay if you're starting to bump into uncomfortable spaces within your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions. That doesn't mean that anything is wrong with you. You know, and I feel like that's one of the most important things that we need to all hear. Nothing's wrong with you. You're perfectly, imperfectly you. You're right where you're meant to be in this moment now. And so quit fighting yourself, right? Just like, let yourself feel and be, and then begin to say, is there a way that I can be kind to myself?
Yes.
Right? Compassionate to self.
Yes. And the number one way that I show people how to do this is lower your standards. When you lower your standards for everything, you actually develop more empathy, because it's like, hey man, you know, you should be, take should out of your language. Should and shouldn't, get rid of that, and lower your standards for everybody. Lower your standards for yourself. Just look at you, what makes you do this, instead of, that's wrong. Hey, share with me what drove you to do that. What are you experiencing? Empathy, lowering your standards opens up empathy. And I think that empathy is what is on the other side of shame. It's really understanding and embracing the wholeness of another human being. And that's embracing the shadow stuff that happens with them, the negative stuff, the angry stuff, the sad stuff, the stuff that causes people to slow down and not be able to function. Can we wait? Can we be considerate? And can we see people as convenient, not inconvenient? See their emotions as convenient. And really, when we lean into that space, that's where everything starts. All this stuff starts to fall apart. Oh, it's okay if I'm angry. I had somebody explode on me the other night and curse me out with all this F you, this and this, that, because I asked a question and just went off on me. And I just waited. And I said, hey, listen, I just want you to know something. Your anger is welcome here. And I'm ready to hear it all. And it's okay if you say what you have to say. I'm here. And I got hung up on. I got told, don't speak to me anymore. And then I sent a video. I was like, hey, I'm gonna honor what you said. Your anger is welcome here whenever you decide to come back. And the person came back to me. They were like, look, I appreciate the spin out. I've never had a space like that where I felt safe before in my anger. And so you've given me a tremendous gift. And I was like, yo, man, that's what I'm here for. This is the kind of world I'm looking to build, is providing that environment for people to be safe. And that's lowering my standards. Well, you shouldn't be talking to me that way. You shouldn't call me a mother, I lower my standards, man. And it's like, okay, cool.
Well, I think there's an important distinction in also recognizing the amount of work that you've done to not take on the emotions and anger of other people, because I think that especially for those that find themselves as empathetic, empathic, that they are unable to hold that space. And it's not as easy as just, I'm not going to react, right? Like this is what's on the other side of the deep work, where you are no longer attached to the words people use on you, and you recognize the energy behind the words. And so the words no longer carry the triggers of the weight that they once carried. And there's no way to skip that process of deconstructing the language first and understanding that when someone does call you a name or postures a certain way, it actually has nothing to do with them. It's what they represent. And so without doing that work, the like, I noticed myself in my own head of like, oh, lower your standards. And my mind was like, well, like I felt the societal response of like, you should never lower your standards for anything, right? And as I just sat with that for a minute, it was just asking clarifying questions for myself. And it was just that word is not the word for me. Yeah. What I recognized was it was lowering expectation, you know what I mean, of what I expected from people, of how I expect they should perform, versus even bringing in the consideration that it is a standard, because there's still judgment to standard in my cosmology. So it's bringing that much awareness that when something kind of like, oh, like I didn't really care for that word, to be able to sit with it for a minute And then it takes moments once you've done this kind of work to realize where it's coming from.
Yeah.
And to not negate someone else's word of choice, because that's what resonates in their language and their experience. It's being able to also, there's times we have conversations around a word or language and we don't agree. We just don't agree. And I'll be like, well, I don't know. For me, this is more how I see it. So this is the word I choose, right? But it's a discussion for clarity and perspective. It's not for who wins and who is right.
Yeah. And thank you for swinging that around. I love you so much, girl. I love hearing this woman talk. You know, we have this thing that we work with people on, Melissa. It's called the roadmap to intimacy. And it starts off with, in order to have, we consider intimacy an intricate connection. Intricate. It doesn't have to be sex. It doesn't have to not be sex. It's an intricate connection with another human being or another thing or with yourself. And it starts off with physical tolerance. And that's to be able to tolerate yourself in a situation to where you're not running or fighting. And once you're in that space, you accept yourself there and you can kind of settle. And you start to move into a physical safety where you feel safe. You're not going to be physically harmed. And once you're in that physical safety space, you open up into vulnerability. You offer something about yourself, and the other person tends to offer something in a way back at you. And when you can both be vulnerable and your vulnerability is accepted, that enters into a space of connection. And when you connect with each other, that's when you start to really to rub information together in a way that you're really deeply understanding it. And then when it starts to get intricate, that's when you have the interweaving of two human beings or more human beings. And that's a roadmap that of from physiology to mentality into the whole human organism of interaction that we've been weaving into. And Cole and I have that intimacy space. And so when I said standards and she perked up, she could have easily went into a space of not being able to tolerate that, but she tolerated it. She accepted herself in that space. Right. And then she felt safe enough to say what she had to say, which was, hey, you know, that word for me kind of threw me into that space. So we can have this dance back and forth. So we can connect on something and have intricacy, which gives me to a point where I understand her language better. She understands my language better. And that's when we have the depth of connection, consideration, and understanding that brings empathy. And that's the empathy space that takes the shame device and throws it out the window. She could have been like, well, standard is a shitty word and I'm just not down with that. You know,
I think that standards are a judgment.
You know, and this is where people get into these things where they bump heads because they're not in a space where they can tolerate it.
I would ask you, Todd, because it's so important. So right now, a lot of people are bumping heads, right? People, when they're kind of triggered at that very primal, I got to protect myself. And so there's this immediate, I want to blame. I need to diffuse. I need to deflect. I need to protect. So, you know, I know this is y'all's interview, but again, I'd love to hear your thoughts on
this. Is a conversation.
It is a conversation, 100%. Thank you, Cole. So what would you offer up to people of when they're feeling that deflection or that very, again, unconscious kind of primal, like, I'm just going to lock down and I am feeling some kind of way about that. What is a way to move them to be able to allow themselves to be moved into a maybe more neutral or empathetic state? You guys have gotten there, you know, you guys have this beautiful gift and connection together. And I love that you hold you hold the view of what is possible so that other people can go, oh, this is possible. There can be these really healthy, you know, relationships where there can be different perspectives and appreciation. So yet, how do we begin within ourselves when we are being triggered to move neutrally on our way into a little personal empathy, maybe?
I mean, for us, we build everything around the premise of a life team, the people in your life that are there to support you. And quite often people will, especially ones that we work with, focus on their business teams or their executive team or their assistants on their team or whatever. And they have not taken the same time and consideration to build a life team. And when you start to get clear on what things do set you off, because you can remember things in the past in any relationship, friendship, family, and you create a framework, right? Like it's first learning about yourself. So then I'm able, you know, Ta and I would sit and have conversations, not when we're already in a reactive space, when we have access to our prefrontal cortex and we can come up with a plan. Just like in business, Something blows up, you go, okay, how did we get here? How did we get here? What do we do in the future so that we don't end up here, right? To keep us in alignment. And so in building a life team, it's doing that same thing. It's sitting down with people and going, so I have this thing that if I'm questioning myself and I feel stupid, I get angry and I notice it. And when I'm in it, I don't know what to do about it. And I might get loud. Can we talk about ways that you could remind me in that moment if you see me getting activated? And we come up with language for our individual self. So for me, if I'm feeling attacked, he is not attacking me. I am feeling attacked. We came up with, because he asked me, he's like, well, is there something I can say? Is there something I can do to let you know I'm on your team? To remind you of the present moment and that I'm here with you. And so I said, yeah, just start by telling me, baby, I'm on your team. And then, just gently, like touch my face and just play with my hair. And he'll ask, is it okay if I touch you? Because consent is never assumed on any level in our physicality, not in sex, not in cuddling, not in hugging. Like if the body language is not open, it is still in defense. And so if we want to be able to communicate, we've got to lower that stress response, right? So that I can even relax and think and breathe. So we came up with little things. I know that if he gets triggered by something, I know it long before there's an escalation. That's why we don't fight. We know each other's body language. The second his shoulders drop and he looks down, he's feeling defeated in some way, or he's feeling pressed on in some way. So our priority is each other as individuals. So I'll let go of whatever I was saying and just acknowledge, like, hey, I just noticed something shifted. What's coming up for you right now? Because whatever we were talking about is no longer priority. It can be talked about once we get back online. But if someone is getting into a stress response, they can't think clearly. And if your goal is to be heard or even to get your point across, it's not going to be.
Yeah. And removing that shame language, like, what's wrong with you? Mm-hmm. Is there something wrong with you? When you ask somebody that question, the defense comes online. Oh, something's wrong with me. So I need to defend that. Nothing's wrong with me. Right. Most of the time, that nothing wrong with me. What's wrong with you? And
I've never said that before.
It's a defense mechanism. And this is when the body jumps in, the mind gets pushed out, cognition and intelligence gets pushed out because there's a tiger in front of you. And the thing that most people that we work with don't understand is that the things that get threatened are not just your body, it's your idea of yourself. Mm-hmm. When your idea of yourself is threatened, your defenses come online. Okay. When your idea of yourself, when your idea of your righteousness, when your idea of being a good person, when any of that stuff comes online, defense mechanisms come online and a person can't hear you. So it only takes one person to see a trigger happen. And if you're in a relationship with two people, it's like, hey, listen, I noticed that. And I'm going to take a step back. Is that okay? And then having that person breathe, right? With shoulders and everything involved, because when another body sees this happen, I mean, look, your body's doing it right now. I'm watching you, right? So it's when a body sees another body, hey, and bring the tone down a little bit so that slow down and bring the tone down a little bit so that a person may have to lean in to actually hear you. And that's where the interaction starts to get a little calmer. People start to synchronize and the prefrontal cortex comes back online and logic starts to come into play. It's not just get away from me, leave me alone, get away from me. It's okay. Hey, I'm here with you. I noticed that this is going on with you. I'm here for you. I'm on your team. I have your best interest in mind. I'm not on the attack. And no matter how much.
What do you need right now?
Yeah. And what do you need? That's a very important thing. What do you need right now? And then shutting up, right? Just shut up. Some people are, especially men, and I don't like to stereotype, but this is me and every man that I've worked with. We are looking to fix it, right? Because we don't want to deal with it, right? We don't want to deal with it. All right, what do you need right now? It's just like, hey, what do you need? And then just wait. If it takes a while for it to come out, just wait. Just wait. Wait. and don't say anything, and let the person calm down, let them have what they need. And then
and he'll ask me, he'll say, do you want me to leave the room? Like, if I don't know, because if I'm in that overwhelm, I can't think of what I need. So even that, we have the backup plan. All right, what do I do if you don't know what you need? Okay, I'm like, okay, well, ask me, do you want me to leave the room? Would you like me to come sit next to you and not say anything? Or is there something else? And if I say I don't know again, that means I'm still trying to figure it out, but it's still something else, right? So we literally kind of got plan A and plan B, just like a business would. This happens, here's how we respond. That will bring more relaxation, more connection, more intimacy into any relationship, whether it's a partnership, a friendship, anything.
Yeah. And I would say using that same kind of framework if we are by ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people right now may not have kind of their life team right there with them, and maybe they're living on their own and they're going through this time in a very kind of, solo way. That same type of principles, because when we, just like going back to the beginning of our conversation, we can of course sense, right? We can feel the tension in our body. We can definitely begin to become aware and observe what words are create a feeling of expansion, what words are creating kind of this contraction. And so when we already know, that could trigger us, right? So that could trigger an emotional response that's not necessarily going to help us to thrive and to feel our best. And so when that happens, just that idea of just going, okay, let me just press pause for a moment. Let me have some space for a moment. And space could look like putting down the phone, turning off the television, just letting things be silent, leaving the room you were in, even changing physical space. So yes, somebody else may not be there to notice it. And we may get way down the rabbit hole until we realize just how badly we feel. Yet at some point in our journey, we still become aware of going, I'm here again. All right. Whenever we notice it, whether we catch it at the top and we can stop it early, or we're all the way down in the bottom of that hole, we can go, okay, I'm here again. And same principles apply. So if we can give ourselves that same kind of ease, just go, let me give some space. Let me literally put some space between myself and whatever that thing is. And then, coming back to your recommendations from earlier, stand in front of the mirror. Go ask yourself, what do you need right now?
Yeah.
Right? That's a really powerful question. I love that.
Yeah.
And maybe what we need.
Yeah, I will literally lie flat on the floor like a snow angel and put my palms flat on the floor and perceive as many areas of my body as I can to get me out of my head, because I used to do self-harm. And so I had to find something else to do with my body to get me out of my head that was not destructive.
Yeah.
So that was not an easy thing to repattern, because it wasn't just don't do it, because then I'm not getting what I need, which is to ground. That's the truth of it. I need to get out of here.
Yeah.
It's the spinning and the chaos. So that's lying completely down, arms out, palms down on the floor, and just pressing and breathing and just trying to feel all of that support. That is me supporting myself.
Yeah.
I love it. And you know what, when we bring it back to even language, using words like notice, become aware. So right now, as everybody's watching or listening, if I just invite you to become aware of your feet. Are they on the floor? Are you barefoot? Are you in shoes? Are your toes moving? Are they still? What are you doing? You're aware of your feet.
Yep.
Right? You can't, and so sometimes I love how you were saying that often, yes, especially when we get up here and when we are emotionally triggered, we are way up in our beautiful brains, right? And yet not to our most optimized capacity. And you said it, like what we so need and want and crave, whether we realize it or not, is to ground. And we can do it. We can do it just even through, again, our language, and just say, what am I noticing in my feet? What am I noticing in my legs? What am I noticing? What's happening? So if we just are willing to direct our focus somewhere else other than onto that problem, even if we can do it for 60 seconds, we can completely break that state. And then we can create a new opening. And like you said, be able to come back to more of that neutral reset place. And then that loops us all the way back in that stress can actually be a good thing when we have time to rest and reset. Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Great way to swing it back around.
Mm.
Wonderful. It's so awesome to have you with us. Thank you so much for riding with us. This has gone. Wow, we're at an hour already.
Yeah, it flew by.
Let's see.
And we will have a conversation offline. I want to know more about that shame framework and what you guys are doing.
It's so good.
I am
It's
excited.
awesome.
And I'm excited about what y'all are doing with the 22999.
Yeah,
I already signed up.
Yeah,
I'm
you know, we just some of these conversations are going to have to be taken off of platforms that are censoring a lot of information. So, you know, we deal with a lot of physicians, as you do, and health professionals and nurses and people that are being censored, are being banned from Facebook and Google, whose practices have been proven to work for various things and various topics. And we're about human optimization. We're not here to treat sick people. We're here to get the human organism back into a state of being harmonious, because that's what it comes down to.
Optimal flux.
Yes.
Optimony?
Optimony. Flux. Optimony.
It's like harmony and optimize. Optimony.
Nice. Let's write that down. Write that down. Optimony.
Hey, back in the studio.
Hey, yeah.
Cupcake.
Assistant 5 with the red shirt.
It's like unknown soldier in a movie. Hey, you unknown soldier, undescript soldier number 3.
Guy number 5 on Star Trek. Red shirt guy number 5.
Anyway, let people know where they can find you and what kind of services you provide if they're looking for support in this turbulent time.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, guys. So it's super simple. My site is docmelissa.com. And that's probably the main, easiest place to get to me. You'll be able to find out about everything from just my Positive Impact Lab, where you get your daily dose of inspiration. If you want to do more one-on-one, like you guys, we're right in that same pocket together. A lot of very personalized, kind of authentic, I activate the authentic success signature. So really moving into those thriving states in our business, and our health, and our life. So, if you liked it, if I resonated, docmelissa.com is where I'm at. And thank you guys. This was an honor, a pleasure, a joy, all the good feels, all of it.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you so much for rocking with us. We really, really appreciate you. Looking forward to more connection and exploration with this stuff, because your expertise on epigenetics is something that I'm looking to bounce all of these ideas off of, because of how we express our genes is super important. And I think that this exploration of the shame device thing is
it's time. It's time in paradigm. It's time in paradigm. 2 tickets to paradigm.
Paradigm. All right. So I want to thank everybody who's listening, everyone who's watched on Facebook Live. Thank you so much for joining us. If you love this, and we know you did, rate, review, subscribe, share with a friend,
tag a friend in the videos. If you haven't shared it to your timeline, do it. Everyone needs this kind of support right now in their mind. They're in their home, they're feeling trapped, imprisoned, and there is no prison like the one in the mind. So free your mind and the rest will follow. Yes. Until next time, my name is Cole.
My name is Ty.
This is Mentor in the Mirror podcast. Be free.